Brazil is a country that doesn't fit into one single image. It's not just the rainforest, or the beaches, or the parties. It's a world of its own, vast, mixed, and unpredictable. Here, almost everything has happened. Invasion and discovery, slavery and freedom, empire and republic, dreams and disappointments. And all those stories somehow live together in the same place. To understand what Brazil is today, its joy and creativity, but also its contradictions, we need to go back. Not too far, just enough to see where the pieces came from. So let's travel through 5 centuries in just a few minutes. Not a history class, more like a time-lapse of a nation being invented. A country born from encounters and collisions between worlds. This is the story of Brazil. Long before Brazil was called Brazil, this land already had a name: Pindorama, the land of the palm trees. Hundreds of nations lived here, speaking different languages, following their own ways of life. They fished, hunted, farmed, built villages, traded with each other. They didn't see themselves as part of one country, and why would they? The land seemed infinite. Then, in the year 1500, a group of Portuguese ships appeared on the horizon. They were supposed to reach India. Instead, they found something else, a new world that wasn't exactly new. They called it a discovery. But from the people already living here, it looked more like the beginning of an invasion. At first, there was curiosity, gifts, gestures, words no one understood. Then came the trade: wood for mirrors, food for knives. The red dye from a tree, Pau Brazil, soon became the reason for the first settlements. The tree gave the colony its name, and it gave Portugal a new source of wealth. Within decades, the encounters turned into conquests. Missionaries arrived to convert, soldiers to control, merchants to profit. Many indigenous communities were wiped out by violence and disease. Others resisted, moved inland, or adapted to survive. What was once Pindorama became a colony, one built on the idea that everything here could be taken, traded, and owned. After the Portuguese settled along the coast, the colony began to take shape, not as a new society, but as a business. The first great export was sugar. Vast plantations spread across the northeast, powered by the labor of enslaved Africans, men, women, and children brought across the Atlantic in unimaginable conditions. Over 4 million Africans were forced to Brazil, the largest number in the entire Americas. Their work built the wealth of the colony, and their culture reshaped it. From that suffering came strength, rhythms, religions, foods, words, dances, the foundation of what would later be called Brazilian culture. But sugar wasn't enough. In the 1700s, explorers moving inland found gold in the mountains of Minas Gerais. Suddenly, thousands rushed there: Portuguese settlers, fortune seekers, and enslaved miners, digging for their masters. Entire cities grew overnight. Churches lined with gold, sculptures carved by the hands of people who would never be free. The wealth sparkled in Europe. The pain stayed in Brazil. Meanwhile, deep in the forests and mountains, some people fought back. Escaped Africans built hidden communities, quilombos, where freedom was not a dream, but a daily act of resistance. Among them was Palmares, the largest of all, led by Zumbi, a symbol of defiance that still echoes today. By the time the gold ran out, Brazil was already one of the most unequal colonies in the world. The empire that ruled it grew rich. The people who made it possible lived and died in chains. The early 1800s, the colony had grown restless. Portugal still ruled from across the ocean, but Brazil was no longer a distant outpost. It was too rich, too large, too different to stay quiet. Then, history took an unexpected turn. In 1808, fleeing Napoleon's armies, the entire Portuguese royal family crossed the Atlantic and set up their court in Rio de Janeiro. For the first time, a European empire was being run from the Americas. Rio became a capital of gold coaches, printing presses, and European manners under the tropical sun. But when the king returned to Lisbon, he left his son behind, Dom Pedro. In 1822, pressed by revolutionaries and surrounded by loyalists, Pedro made a choice. On the banks of the Ipiranga River, he raised his sword and declared, "Independence or death." Brazil was free, at least on paper. The new nation kept its emperor, its elites, and tragically, its slavery. Freedom came to the flag, but not yet to the people. Under Dom Pedro II, the empire matured. Railways, telegraphs, science, and art flourished. Immigrants arrived from Europe, Asia, and the Middle East, reshaping the population once again. But beneath the progress, the old structures held firm. Power in few hands, inequality everywhere. And by the end of the century, even the emperor could feel the ground shifting. In 1888, Brazil finally abolished slavery, the last country in the Americas to do so. 1 year later, the monarchy itself collapsed. The republic was born in a military coup, and a new era began. The empire had fallen, but the revolution was more about uniforms than ideals. In 1889, a group of army officers declared the republic, without a single shot fired and without asking the people. The monarchy was gone, but the old elites remained. Power passed from the palace to the plantations, and coffee became the new king. In the late 1800s, Brazil's economy ran on caffeine. Coffee covered the hills of São Paulo and Minas Gerais, feeding fortunes, cities, and railways. It was the engine of modern Brazil, but only for a few. For most people, life changed little. The country was officially a democracy, but elections were controlled, and votes were often bought with promises or threats. Still, the world was changing. Immigrants arrived from Italy, Japan, Lebanon, bringing new skills, flavors, and dreams. Cities grew fast, factories roared, and Brazil began to imagine itself as something more than a plantation. In Rio de Janeiro, artists and writers looked for a modern Brazilian identity. The 1920s brought jazz, politics, and rebellion. The Modern Art Week of 1922 shocked the old elite and gave birth to a new idea of Brazil: creative, bold, and proudly mixed. But while art dreamed of the future, politics looked back. The system of coffee and milk, the rule of landowners, kept tight control. Until, in 1930, a new strongman would rise and promise to remake the country. By 1930, the old coffee republic had lost control. The world was in crisis, and so was Brazil. Out of the chaos came a new leader, Getúlio Vargas, a politician with a military face and a populist voice. Vargas promised order, work, and a modern nation. He built factories, created labor laws, and gave workers a voice, at least when it suited him. He called himself the father of the poor, but ruled like a dictator. He censored the press, crushed opponents, and filled the streets with patriotic songs. Brazil entered the Estado Novo, a new state built on control and charisma. After the war, democracy briefly returned. Vargas fell, then came back, and finally took his own life in 1954. His death left the country divided between those who saw him as a tyrant and those who mourned a hero. In the 1960s, Brazil danced to bossa nova, dreamed of Brasilia, and built highways into the future. But the future didn't wait. In 1964, another military coup ended democracy again. For 21 years, the country lived under military rule. Censorship, torture, and fear became part of daily life. Yet even in silence, resistance grew, in music, theater, and the streets. By the 1980s, people had had enough. Millions marched for direct elections. The dictatorship cracked, and democracy finally returned. In 1988, Brazil adopted a new constitution, one that promised freedom, rights, and dignity for all. After centuries of struggle, the country had found its democratic voice again. After centuries of change, from colony to empire, from republic to dictatorship, Brazil entered a new chapter: democracy. The 1990s brought hope and confusion. New leaders, new parties, new dreams, and the same old inequalities. Inflation was tamed, the economy opened to the world, and a new currency, the real, gave people a sense of stability. But poverty and corruption never really left. In the 2000s, millions rose out of poverty. The world looked at Brazil with fascination. A young democracy, a booming economy, a cultural powerhouse. Football, fashion, music, technology, everything seemed possible. But Brazil has never been a simple story. Alongside progress came crisis. Protests, scandals, polarization. Each step forward seemed to come with a step back. Still, the pulse of the country never stops. In the streets, in art, in laughter, in struggle, Brazilians keep reinventing what it means to live together. From the first people of Pindorama to the cities of today, Brazil has been a story of encounters. Indigenous, African, European, and countless others, all meeting, clashing, and creating something new. Brazil's story is still being written in every street, every voice, every new idea. If you enjoyed this video, help it travel a little further. Like, share, and subscribe. It really makes a difference for small creators like us. And tell us what part of Brazil's story you'd like to see next. A region, a person, a moment in time. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next chapter.